Welcome to the Positive Growth Doctor podcast for women. I am your host, Dr. Christina Wilson. I created the Positive Growth Doctor after years of dealing with societal expectations, self-doubt, and perfectionism. I leveraged my 30 years of experience as a positive psychologist to address limiting beliefs and gain clarity through faith-based emotional wellness techniques rooted in mindset renewal and biblical truth. Subscribe to the podcast and check out the earlier episodes so you don't miss a thing. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positive Growth Doctor podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christina Wilson. We are in the final episode of our series, Women in Modern Faith. We've deconstructed our mindset with Eve, balanced comparison with Mary, and uprooted self-doubt with Ruth. But today we face the final dilemma, fear. So we're going to look at Queen Esther, a woman who had to choose between the safety of silence and the risk of her calling. So if you feel pressure to hide your faith or stay quiet when you should speak up, this episode is for you. And also know that you are not alone. So this is pretty rampant right now. So find the full transcript for this episode on your favorite podcast app or just go to YouTube. And please share the podcast with other women to help them grow on their journey. And don't stop there with just the people you know. Extend that reach. It's very simple. Just leave a review on Apple Podcasts. I appreciate you. So when I think of Esther, I think of courage. She's one of my favorite women from the Bible. And the book of Esther draws from what it was like for Jewish people living under Persian rule during that time. And Esther was described as very, very beautiful, just stunning. Needless to say, she was comfortable, as a queen. So speaking up would not only disrupt her life, but it meant potentially risking her life. And ultimately, Esther faced possible death to save her people. She endured a battle against fear of man and the pressure to stay silent. Have you been in a place where you felt just uncertain and unsettled, or you were afraid to speak up? We experience fear and paralysis when this happens. And the enemy uses the what if scenario to keep women silent. And we have the fear of being canceled, misunderstood, rejected for standing up for our faith-based values, especially in today's world. And I'm talking about the fear of rejection, the pressure to blend in or just stay quiet about your values to avoid conflict or even worse. Like I said before, it is rampant today. And, it's a spirit of fear. If you speak up, you'll lose your reputation or your job or your friends. Silence in the face of evil isn't peace. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer posited that silence in the face of evil is itself evil. So let that marinate just a bit. So how do you prepare to step into God's call? Because He calls all of us to something. So how do you prepare to step into God's call on your life, even when it's just scary to do so? So we often try to fight spiritual battles with natural weapons, like arguing on social media, stressing, ruminating, and losing sleep, or over planning. And Esther 4:16 says that Esther didn't rush into it. What did she do? She called for a fast. Yes, a fast. And your public boldness is only as strong as your private prayer life. That's very important. You cannot stand strong before kings if you haven't knelt before the King of Kings. Now, I think people take prayer for granted sometimes. It's meaningful. Not only to stay or not only to seek out his guidance, but to also deepen the relationship with the Father. And this is critical because in these times we're faced with the spirit of intimidation. The enemy uses the size of the king's gate or whatever is before you to make you feel small and to make you feel powerless. But with God, anything is possible, right? The biblical truth here is that Esther's position wasn't for her comfort. It was about rescuing her people. And God placed you exactly where you are right now in your current circle, not to be a fan of the culture, but to be a diplomat for the kingdom. So, how do women become victorious? Well, Esther chose to fast and she prayed at the very start, like right off the bat in her preparation. She didn't wait. She didn't get sucked into it or caught up in it. She did it right away. And she recognized the value in this, which is something we can learn from. Now, sometimes we do get caught up in everything and the heaviness and, our habits shift. So, you know, as we try to work through the chaos for such a time as this, right? God is sovereign in your current situation. You aren't where you are right now by accident. So use your voice and your position to bring glory to God. Even when it's hard and it's uncomfortable. In the book of Ruth, Haman's decree was meant to destroy a generation. So what decrees are being spoken over your family, your kids, your community today? The mindset of, well, if I perish, I perish. This is about, it isn't about being reckless. It's about being surrendered, surrendering to Him. And the boldness is born when our love for God's people outweighs the love for our own comfort. Now, preparation precedes proclamation. So before you speak up at work, right, or in the community, spend time in prayer. Don't skip that. That is so important because you'll hear from Him what comes next. So here are some reflection questions as we close today. The first one is, where has my silence been driven by fear rather than wisdom? And the second is, what decree, what negative trend or problem in my sphere of influence is God calling me to stand up against? So as we close out this series, remember that you have the curiosity of Eve, the surrender of Mary, the resilience of Ruth, and yes, the boldness of Esther. The spiritual warfare you feel is only proof that the enemy is intimidated by your potential, God-given potential. So take your place, and the king is waiting for you to enter the court. I believe in you, sister. I hope that this helped, and we will meet up again next week for a brand new series. Have a beautiful week.
Thanks for listening to the Positive Growth Doctor podcast. Be sure to leave a review and tell other women about the podcast. Let's support each other. Find the full transcript for this episode on your favorite podcast app and learn more at thepositivegrowthdoctor.com. And be assured, you are not alone on your journey.